Goodness, what a weird day so far. I had a really weird day before I called you. How's your day?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, mine's pretty normal so far. Took the dog on a walk and had some coffee and
Nice.
got set up for this. So, yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm really glad that I saw what was over your right shoulder because on my list of questions here, I forgot to ask you about your art. Oh my God. I was going to ask you like about all the other artists, and I forgot that you're an
No,
artist.
no, that's okay. I was just like, well, I put this up earlier because it's something I'm working on right now, but
Yeah.
it usually lives in another space. I do sometimes work on things up here,
Okay.
but I didn't have anything going in this space at the moment. So I was like, oh, I should like put something up so it's not a blank wall.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, great. Okay. All right. Well, let's officially start.
Okay.
Oh wait, do you have any questions before we start?
I don't think so. Are you happy with this one recording? I didn't know if you wanted me to set up another device from a different angle or if you're happy with this as it is.
I think like I brought this records like in 4K and
Mhm.
whatnot, and I was thinking of setting this up. I think that it's okay. Yeah,
Great.
I think that it's okay because it'll go just on YouTube as a video and then it'll be released as a podcast. And then I mean, things are ever changing with the thing. I think that if it turns out that I really want to include sections specifically for the movie that are different, then I would ask you later after you know more about the movie, like, hey, would you like to be in this? And then I probably would drive down and like meet
Yeah.
you in person and get like live footage.
Yeah.
I'm trying to include as much like outside footage as humanly possible instead of just talking head interview stuff in the actual
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, but thanks for asking. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Um, all right, well, then let's do some of the traditional we're doing an official interview stuff now. So,
Mhm.
um, can you tell us a little bit about um, who you are and where in the world you are located? Since normally I interview people in Iowa, where are
Mhm.
you?
Yeah. Well, my name is Kelly Yarbrough, and I am coming to you today from my home in Manhattan, Kansas.
Okay. And how tall are the skyscrapers in Manhattan, Kansas?
Oh, yes, Manhattan, Kansas, the little apple, as we like to call it.
Wait, do you
You
guys
know,
really say that?
yes. Isn't it
Okay.
cute? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no skyscrapers here. Actually, our tallest building was recently demolished. It was a Commerce Bank building, and they're redeveloping that into like mixed use housing, commercial space. So Manhattan's a college town. Kansas State University is here. We have a population of a little over 50,000, but with the student population, and then Fort Riley is located just to the west of us in Junction City as well. So we have kind of this dynamic population of people that come for both those reasons. But there's quite a few people that have chosen to make their home here or come back and retire here. So
Yeah.
it's a nice sized community. Definitely no skyscrapers, but
It's bigger than I thought,
charming.
though. I thought you were going to
Yeah.
say, honestly, I thought you were going to say like 3,500, like really,
People in the
really
town.
tiny. Yeah, I
Oh
thought it
no.
was just really, really tiny.
We're
So,
surrounded by a few other like small towns like that, but honestly, like this region is growing fairly quickly for I think compared to other parts of the state, it's one of the fastest growing areas right around
okay.
Manhattan. So
Okay. And just going to be honest here, do you remember how we first made contact? Because I don't remember why. Did I just learn about you through a random Google search and then I reached out? You didn't reach out to me, right?
no, no, I don't think so. I think you must have reached out to me because of the Tallgrass Artist Residency. That would be my theory.
Okay, great. So the tall, so let me preface this
Yeah.
with normally what I'm trying to do, and again, we were just saying before we hit record that my project has become, it's this ever evolving, rapidly evolving thing. And early on, when I reached out to talk to you, I was going to drive all the way down, and it's about 6.5 hour drive, I believe, one way from here. And then I
Hmm.
reversed course because I realized there was so much happening here in Iowa that
Hmm.
that I was like, "Hey, Kelly, I'm so sorry to back out, but I feel like there's so much in Iowa. I'm just going to stay, everything's going to stay within the state boundaries of Iowa." However, something about your work has stayed as a constant as something that I haven't experienced here in Iowa, which made me want to stay meeting with you in some capacity.
Mm.
So, can you tell? So, it was the Tallgrass Artist Residency. Did I say that right?
Yes, yeah.
So, can you sort of dive into that? Because I think it is so
Mm.
fascinating. So, let's start from the start. When did it begin?
Yeah, the Tallgrass Artist Residency first started in 2016. That was the first year that we hosted visiting artists in residence. And I actually started the program while I was still a grad student here at K-State. I was pursuing my MFA in drawing. And I loved doing that work, but my process had become one that depended on me being outside in the landscape quite a lot. And that was great. I love exploring spaces on my own, and through that, I kind of got to travel around and meet more of the places and people of the Flint Hills of Kansas.
Okay.
But I also felt a little like a little bit of cabin fever, I think. I like being sort of like making work in a little studio cube. I was like, oh, I just I want to be outside of this box and like engage people in a different way. And I had moved to Kansas for grad school, so really that 3 years was a great opportunity for me to just like dive into this place and be curious about it and absorb and learn. And I was quite surprised by what I found. I kind of fell in love with the prairie and with Kansas. And I thought this is so unlikely. People characterize this place as being flyover country, and they drive through it quickly on their way to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I thought more people need to like take the time to get out of their cars and explore this place and be immersed by it. And I was especially interested in kind of inviting artists from different parts of the Prairie region,
Okay.
which to me that means roughly like the Great Plains region. The place where I live in Kansas, the Flint Hills, is really characterized by tallgrass prairie.
Okay.
But the Great Plains, sort of roughly speaking, is mostly prairie, like it might be short grass or mixed grass, but there's
Sure.
kind of this shared history in some ways and shared culture in some ways of this larger ecoregion. And it's such an overlooked landscape that I was really kind of curious to invite in artists that maybe are living and working in different parts of the prairie region to experience the tall grass in Kansas and kind of compare notes and just have some time to like absorb this place and also like from our perspective kind of learn what are some similar things that artists are seeing and working with in these different parts of the prairie region. And so there's kind of this larger idea of building a dialogue of prairie places across the region.
To me, what is really fascinating about that, and I'm remembering now, like the reason I was excited to reach out to you is because you had mentioned during our chat that the 10th what am I trying to say? Reunion? No, it's like, yeah, it was a 10-year reunion. You just had an
Well,
event?
this 2025 was the 10th year of the residency program. So we have kind of an annual cycle where we host about 10 artists a year. And
Yeah.
this year was our 10th year of hosting residents.
Yeah. Tell
Mhm.
us about that celebration that you had. How
Yeah,
many
yeah.
people
So
came?
yeah. We've gotten into this rhythm with the residency where like artists will come through kind of from the late spring through early fall seasons, and they're mostly staying um, on their own, like doing their own self-directed residency,
Okay.
but we learned after a few years that it was actually really beneficial if we could provide time for those residents to come back and share space and time together and
Mm,
kind of have an opportunity for them to share some of their work and responses to the place with a larger community,
yeah.
and members of the public. So I should say that the Tallgrass Artist Residency actually takes place in a very small town called Matfield Green, Kansas, that is
Okay.
about an hour and a half south of where I live in Manhattan. Um,
Oh, oh wow.
yeah.
Why does it
So
take place in Matfield?
well, okay, great question. So, so Matfield Green is in a county called Chase County, which is kind of in a lot of ways the heart of the Flint Hills of
Okay.
Kansas. Matfield Green is about 20 miles south of the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve, which is
Oh,
one of our largest pieces of public land in Kansas.
okay.
So if people want to like walk on some trails and visit the Tallgrass Prairie and really be immersed in it, the preserve is sort of like the place to go, just as a member of the public.
Let me just ask
Yeah.
real specifically about that. Here in Iowa, um, we don't, I mean, we do have some protected areas of prairie. Normally it's restructured prairie or restored prairie. But still, I would say most people in the state don't, at least that I've met as I've talked about my work, most people don't even know where those are. So I
Hmm.
think in general, most people here don't have a sense of like an expansive patch of prairie and what that might look like. Um,
Yes.
and even then, our areas are, I would say, at least like I went to Neil Smith Prairie, and it is really lovely, but it is a small piece, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Just
Hmm.
compared to like state parks and state forests that I visited in other places. How big is the area down there that you're talking about for
So
the?
the yeah, the Tallgrass Preserve itself, I believe it's like around 11,000 acres. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's
the
really
but it's
huge.
also surrounded by privately owned ranch land that
Yeah.
is also like a lot of it is managed well for prairie as well. So I mean the
Yeah.
region extends further than that. But
Wow.
yeah, the preserve itself yeah, I think it's around 11,000 acres.
And for the technical folks listening who are from Iowa who track these things, is it an 11,000 acre prairie remnant? Is it restructured
Yeah.
prairie? Was it in cultivation before?
Yeah, my understanding is the majority of it is native prairie because it was a privately held ranch before it
Okay.
was a preserve. There's part like a parcel of their land that was farmed. It's like bottomland closer to a stream or a river.
Yeah.
And so that is like in active restoration, but I'm pretty sure the majority of it is
Yeah.
native. Yeah.
And that's really exciting. And I love the reason that it wasn't just plowed en masse and put to the till is because of it's in the name, right? Flint Hills
That's
region.
right. That's
So
right.
can you describe what that meant for plows? The
Yeah,
Flint.
absolutely. The Flint rock that is the bedrock of the Flint Hills is like this really hard limestone. Chert is another name for it, but this stuff just destroyed early settler plows. So when they were trying to till up the land, it just didn't work. So I think pretty quickly, European settlers that came to the area pivoted to cattle grazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, all our
And
plows
yeah,
are busted.
yeah.
That's cool. I love that. It's like the land's natural defense to being plowed under. Okay, so the folks go down to Matfield, Kansas, and they've been doing that for about 10 years. And this year you had like a celebration. How many people came out for the celebration and what kind of things happened?
Yeah, I think this year we had about 200 people throughout the day,
What?
um, which
Wow.
is which is fun because the
Yeah.
population of Matfield Green is about 50 people. So we like
Okay.
yeah, it quite increased the size of the town. Um, yeah, what we've kind of had this time at the end of every residency cycle where the residents from that year will come back and share their work in some
Okay.
capacity to an audience. And I would say we've had like 100 to 150 in years past, but this being the 10th year, we wanted to do a little bit more, try some different things. So we actually it's so we work quite closely with different folks in the community of Matfield Green. That town has an interesting history itself, and actually is home to a number of artists and creative folks
Hmm.
um, already. So it was
Okay.
sort of a natural place in a lot of ways for the residency to begin. But
Yeah.
we started the this celebration. We call it the Fall Gathering. So we
Okay.
started the Fall Gathering this year with open studios of local artists. So
Huh.
there was kind of a map, and people could float around and visit studio spaces with local artists. One of the residents did a lunch stand, so that's one of the sort of perennial challenges of doing anything in a really rural place. There
Oh
are no
yeah.
brick and mortar stores in Matfield Green, and the closest food is like a Dollar General 20 minutes away or something.
Yeah. So who's going to
So
cater that event? Right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
truly like food becomes an interesting challenge and opportunity for how you build community. So like yes, one resident did a simple lunch stand, which was great because it allowed people to stay throughout the day longer.
Yeah.
And then we had Tallgrass artists had actually utilized different sites around the town to install work. We had a number of folks who do outdoor installations or sculpture of different kinds. And so we actually used a variety of spaces. So we kind of encouraged participants to keep moving around the town that way. And when I say town, it's like a couple of blocks. So we really encourage people to like park here and then walk around. And then in the afternoon into the evening, there's a very large historical schoolhouse building that is managed and cared for by a local family. And it's called the School for Rural Culture and Creativity. It's its own
Hmm.
organization with its own mission, but they
Wow.
are like slowly renovating the space. It had been, abandoned for a while. So
Hmm.
it's this ongoing restoration project, but they've done some really nice work renovating the old classroom spaces. So there's like a community library, there's a printmaking studio, another local business owner has a sewing workshop in there, and it hosts like art from time to time as well. There's also an old gymnasium. And so
Wow.
the Tallgrass Artist Residency has been working with them for several years now to kind of host larger events. And they host their own events there as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, a gymnasium with a stage, like it's it's a non-traditional performance space maybe, but it works for hosting large numbers of people.
That is
Um,
so interesting that it's in a town that with a population that low. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head when that school actually closed, but I mean, there's still folks that live in the area and that show up and say like, "Oh, I went to elementary school here." So, yeah.
Okay, something about what you just said triggered my memory. I
Yeah.
now remember how I first reached out to you and why. I saw a TED Talk thing
Oh,
that you
yes.
did.
Okay.
But I'm gonna make that note for a little bit later to ask what that was about. But because I want to stay on topic here. But um, so yeah, I was like Googling Prairie something, and then somehow the algorithm showed a video of you talking. Anyway,
Okay,
um,
gotcha. Yeah.
okay, so here's I'm gonna ask you a tough question.
Okay.
How does grass inspire art?
Whoa.
Because I didn't get it at all when I first started the project. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come down there. I was just like, wait a minute.
Hmm.
I can understand if Yosemite hosts an artist workshop, right? There's a lot of stuff there. Sequoia National Park, the Grand Canyon. Okay, we're talking about a field of grass. How does that turn into art?
Oh, good. You're getting right into
Yeah.
right into the heart of things. Great. Well, let me tell you. So, first of all, not all grass is created equal.
Okay.
Um, and I think I will share here that I'm not from Kansas. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area,
Oh,
specifically in a suburb of Plano, Texas, is where I grew up.
okay.
Um, and that is a huge sprawling metroplex.
Oh, yeah.
And
And it's still sprawling
it is still sprawling, continues to
every
sprawl,
day.
yes.
Yep.
So my experience of grass growing up there is turf grass, is lawn. You
Yeah,
want to have your manicured lawn to keep up with the Joneses, right? Like, and
absolutely.
that's and that's what grass is. And
Yeah.
I've always been sort of attracted to nature spaces, wild spaces, but in my mind, those were somewhere else. That's some
Sure.
place you visited on vacation, the Sequoia National Park or whatever,
Right, right.
But when I moved to Kansas, later in my life, I realized, oh, this tall grass prairie here, this is also grass. There are many grasses here. This looks and feels completely different from the grass I knew back home.
Yeah.
It's loud, it's buzzing with creatures, it's supporting life in so many
Mm,
different ways. um,
yeah.
it has this whole epic history of supporting people's livelihoods and communities, and through learning about this place, I realized, oh, Plano, where I grew up, used to be prairie. It's mixed grass prairie. But I
Wow.
had no idea when I was
Wow.
living there, or
That's
like had a
crazy.
concept of like what that landscape would have
Right.
looked like, because it's almost completely been erased, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Dallas, Dallas has erased everything. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
The pavement has erased everything pretty much, I feel like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing like this idea of native plants and native landscaping kind of come back into vogue, and so I see where people are
Yeah.
integrating that into their yards more, or like road medians, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, that's not the norm, right? We
Yeah.
we've adopted this idea that the green turf lawn is the ideal of beauty, and
Yeah.
that's an invented notion from European um, monarchy, right?
I
It's
really
not
like what you
sustainable and it's not healthy. So,
I really like what you said about that it's just buzzing with life. And
mhm,
now that I've been able to stand next to restored prairie in in the peak of summer,
mhm.
yeah, that's what happens. It is just like going strong, and you're just like, whoa, what is going on here? Like, it's a
Yeah,
really unique experience that most people haven't had, and
that's right.
we've lost the knowledge of what it's like. And so that's really interesting. Do you remember the first time you encountered real, like a real prayer? I call them stands, a real stand of prairie by chance? Like the first time you saw it and you're
Hmm.
like, oh, oh my, this is different.
That's a good question. I think it was probably like a gradual realization of how big and sort of dense this place was. But I will say,
Okay.
like, when I was thinking about coming to Manhattan for grad school, I visited Konza Prairie Biological Station, which is
Okay.
just outside of town here,
Okay.
and that's an amazing resource for researchers. It's one of the original LTER sites, which is long-term ecological research sites, and
Okay.
there's like 27 of them in the world or something. And
Oh,
Konzo
wow.
was one of the very first, so it's been a research station for
Wow.
over 50 years at this point. But
Okay.
anyway, so it's a great example of
Yeah.
tallgrass prairie, and then they also have a nature trail that
Right.
that people can walk on. So I think like well, it's a little I mean, I knew that that was a special place, but it was already deemed special because it's a research station, and I knew
Right.
that. I think I think it took like, well, maybe it might have been visiting the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve actually too,
Okay.
because you know, depending on how places are labeled and accessed might give you a different experience of them.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
that's
speaking
true.
as I'm thinking about this.
That's okay.
But
Yeah,
I mean I love visiting parks and preserves and places like that. So I think like having the Tallgrass Preserve labeled as that in my mind made me ready to like
this is going to be
absorb it
special.
as
Yeah,
a prairie explorer.
yeah.
Um, but I think it's also like as I've been here longer too, I'm gradually answering your question because I think like my eyes have been opened in gradual ways. But I mean, I also recognize now that um, privately owned like ranch land can also be excellent prairie. I mean, I don't necessarily have access to it whenever I want to,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's okay. I'm still glad it exists.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
there's beauty in that as well. Yeah.
So what kind of art do, do you feel like you have a good memory of the very first Tallgrass Prairie Artist Residency year in 2016? Do you remember the first people?
Yeah, fairly well.
So can you remember one specific person's art that happened because they were there that stands out to you?
Oh yeah, actually I can speak to this. So Casey Whittier is the name of a ceramics artist who she's based in Kansas City and she did the residency the first year. And it, we the language of the residency, I think, has always been structured around the ecology of prairie, but we
Okay.
really invite artists to come like explore and gravitate towards what they will. So we don't like dictate that you need to make work about
Ah,
the
okay.
landscape. So Casey actually took a really interesting perspective. I think she spent a lot of time walking through the prairie, but she was actually kind of exploring um, uh, thoughts about the nature of grief, and actually ended up focusing on these lace curtains that existed in the lodging space where the artists stay, these sort of delicate curtains. And she
Right.
ended up making it almost looks like chainmail out of porcelain, like these woven tapestries out of
Yeah.
porcelain that
Yeah.
so they like hung up on a wall, but it was sort of mimicking sort of the pattern and the decoration found on these curtains.
Right. Right. That's
Yeah,
really
which it
cool.
was, I'm like getting goosebumps thinking about it. And I mean, the cool thing is that she has continued to work on that body of work since then. So it was,
Mhm.
yeah, that always gets me is when artists kind of come to this place and their
Yeah.
work changes or pivots or gets a new dimension added in some way that
Right.
carries on. That's huge.
So it's not all then what some people like me immediately think of as like everyone's just sitting on the edge of a prairie doing like plein air paintings of prairie grass. It's not like that. It's big and interpretive. It can go in a lot of different directions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, we welcome all types of artists. I think there's only been a handful of artists who have maybe done anything kind of traditionally plein air. I mean, we have had a number of like painters, but yeah, we the residencies are 2 weeks long, which is a pretty short amount of time. So we
Oh,
encourage people to really like think of it as a time to be out in the field and absorb and take notes and
yeah.
just be present, because it's not a lot of time to create work,
Yeah.
at least not finished work. Yeah.
In the 10 years, have you ever had anyone who had never seen a stand of prairie like that before? And do you remember their impressions, their
Oh
first
yeah,
impressions?
that's probably the majority of people, especially if they're not from Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah, basically all of these artists are maybe either connected to Prairie or the idea of it or have family history. I mean, they're like having a specific interest in wanting to be in this place is like a common a common thread among all the artists. But that said, yeah, most of them have not had the opportunity to be immersed in the prairie like that.
Have
And
you
so
been
many
able?
people are just driving through too. So even if
Yeah.
they've seen it, it's a totally different experience to be stationed there for 2 weeks.
Have you been able to be with them, like when they first saw it, and like see how their reaction was?
Uh,
I'm
no, I
trying
don't
to
think
get,
I've gotten that
okay.
opportunity because they're coming
Okay.
in on their own at their own
Okay.
pace. So I haven't
Well,
been there at the moment of epiphany.
what would you say is a common takeaway epiphany for people?
I think scale and thinking about time and space, like deep time and
Ooh,
space. Um,
nice. Deep
I
time. I love
yeah.
those two words next to each other.
Oh
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we had an artist early on from like northeastern New Mexico. She's definitely been around big landscapes, and she noted she felt like the scale of the hills in the Flint Hills of Kansas were very friendly. Like it is there are totally moments and places where you can look around and think that you're in the middle of that Windows 95 screensaver of just like the perfect idyllic rolling green
Yeah.
hill. Like
Yeah.
it can be like that. And so I think she kind of noted that, these like there are these small towns that are like, 10 to 15 miles apart, and you've got these
Yeah.
nice gently rolling hills. Like it felt very friendly. She said she felt like she was in the middle of a hug. Um, but then other artists who are coming from like more urban spaces
Yeah.
are like really impressed by the openness and the scale, the
Yeah.
bigness of the scale,
Yeah.
because then you can also be, at spots in the preserve where you have a 360-degree view of prairie and no buildings and no trees. And
Ooh,
like
wow. That's
that's a
rare.
whole
That's
other,
very rare. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's excellent. I like that. Okay, briefly touch upon what's behind you on the wall
On the wall.
and
Yeah.
yeah, talk about that.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
your art in general, because you're also an artist, and it would be crazy for me not to ask you about that.
Okay. Yeah, I am an artist and administrator, and I've kind of found over the past 10 years or so how those things feed each other and align with each other. And they're both significant parts of me. So yeah, I've maintained my own studio practice over the years, and I continue to be sort of enthralled by the Tallgrass Prairie ecosystem. And so this canvas back here is a work in progress, but when I'm working on sort of these larger scale um, drawings and paintings, I really try to express the experience of being in the tall grass prairie.
Mm,
That's sort of what I'm striving for. Um, I I try to pay attention when I'm walking out in the prairie. I do take a lot of like snapshots, but I do not usually work from any reference photos, especially when I'm making works like this, because I'm really trying to draw from memory and
yeah.
rather than sort of exactly replicate specific forms.
Wow.
I just want to describe the experience of being in the prairie. And that to me is like, we were just talking about the constant sound and buzzing.
Yeah.
There's usually some amount of breeze or wind. So like you've got these tendrils of plants and grasses that are always moving. There's bits of things flying. And so to me, it's a very vibrant, almost chaotic landscape when you're really
Yeah.
immersed in it. And that is also not the view that a lot of people have of the prairie as well. So I'm trying to like present that to people. Yeah, yeah. So that's sort of my process, and I think um, I've had a number of people like say to me that they've recognized things out in the prairie and the landscape after seeing my work that they hadn't
Oh,
recognized before. And that to me is like the best win because I yeah, I would love my art to play a role in sort of helping open people's eyes to what's in front of them.
Yeah. Wow. That seems like a big task to try to express artistically what you feel and experience in Prairie. And I think, yeah, that's a tall order. So that's pretty great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess any artist any artist should be doing something that's a tall order. But I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
know. That's it's not worth doing if it's not a tall order.
Yeah. Well, like, um, one of the things that I just did yesterday is I created what I think is going to be a trailer for the movie, but it
Hmm.
also might be a trailer for the podcast, which is separate from the movie. I'm keeping those things sort of separated. But I think I might have created a sequence that makes sense for both.
Mm.
And so I shared it with a couple friends.
Hmm.
And in the sequence, it's got me walking around on in parking decks at night with all the harsh blue light. It's got
Hmm.
close-ups of me typing on a keyboard, scrolling on my phone, drinking coffee, driving my car, all these worldly, human-scaped environments.
Hmm.
And then at the end of it, I lay down in a parking deck like I'm falling asleep. Also, like I just can't take the modern world anymore.
Hmm.
And then the screen goes black, and I say, I just want to wake up somewhere different
Hmm.
sometimes. And then I sit bolt upright, and I'm in Neil Smith Prairie,
Hmm.
in
Oh,
it, all the way in it, like
yeah,
in all these like 7 foot grasses that were
yeah.
still green in the summer. And so the screen goes from black to me sitting bolt upright and realizing I'm in a prairie. And so, and then I look around sort of in shock. But but I asked a friend of mine who's never seen Prairie before, like most people, last night on the phone. I was like, "What was your impression?" And he goes, "The difference between the fresh, he called it fresh, like the fresh, like alive feeling of the grasses." He said it was so striking
Hmm.
compared to like really sort of. Then you realize that the way most of us are living is sort of dystopian.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, that was your takeaway? Fantastic. So, because that's kind of
Yeah,
what I'm trying to do is
yeah.
express to people just how much we've changed things so much that we have forgotten that the prairie is just like this wildly alive place. I mean, I never knew it
Hmm.
until I moved here. And
Hmm.
and it was probably Neil Smith Prairie was the first place where I really was like, oh, this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Whoa. So I can only imagine what your prairie area down there is like, though, because with Neil Smith, you really have to work hard as a photographer to get to a spot where you can take a photo where there isn't a silo in the background or another
Hmm.
structure or a radio tower or something. It's like,
Hmm.
it's really, really hard. But it's still glorious. But I mean, wow, 11,000 acres, that must be wild. So
Hmm.
maybe I will make it down there. Um,
But
Let me ask you about your TED Talk. Do you remember what the topic was and why it might have got my attention? And also, and
yeah.
also, let's point people to it. So,
Okay.
like, I'll
Okay.
include it in the show notes. I'll put the link in the show notes. But do you remember the TED Talk and like how long ago was it?
Yeah, yeah. The topic was, I think, the power of perenniality was sort of the tagline that I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
using. And that was in 2021, and that
Okay.
was at my undergrad alma mater of Austin College. So
Oh
they
wow.
have their own TEDx series, and
Okay.
I I was invited to submit a proposal for a topic, and I did, and I was chosen along with several other alumni
Yeah.
to speak on different topics. So, yeah, I spoke a bit about like my background growing up in Plano in the suburbs, and then kind of moving to Kansas, and the sort of proverbial scales falling from my eyes about what prairie is and what it means. I think I also talked a little bit about the Tallgrass Artist Residency. I also talked about this organization in Salina, Kansas called the Land Institute that
Oh yeah.
very like tangibly is developing perennial food crops. So kind of combining the logic of native prairie plants with agriculture for the hope of having um, agriculture that can benefit the local landscape instead of be extractive from it.
Yeah.
So they very much are working with that idea of perenniality.
And
Um,
can we let's define for the audience
oh yeah,
perenniality.
what perenniality is? Yeah, the native prairies are mostly dominated by perennial plants. So those are plants that um, live longer than 2 years basically. So there's like annual plants, biannual plants, and when you go to the greenhouse in the spring to buy your petunias and your pansies, those kinds of ornamental flowers are largely annuals. They will die after one season.
Um,
But the prairie is largely made up of perennial plants. So those plants tend to have deeper roots. They have longer lifespans. They seed out in different ways. But that is really the stronghold of the prairie and why we have the soils that we have
yeah.
and the landscape that we have. And so there's this
Okay.
idea of like regeneration from year to
Yeah.
year that's sort of built into the logic of the prairie.
Yeah. I never thought about that before, but in terms of like I'm staring out my window at this really big black walnut tree across the street, and I just realized,
Mhm.
oh, trees are perennial. They come back every year, right?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question.
Well,
I
at
mean,
least
I guess would they be called perennials? Yeah. And I mean, any perennial plant still has a lifespan. They don't live indefinitely,
sure,
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah, trees, I guess
Yeah.
I don't see why they wouldn't be perennial.
Because something that comes to mind for me that I've had to adjust in my thinking is, oh, well, really, I'm thinking about prairies now as old growth forests.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. Hmm.
Because my orientation to old growth stuff is in the East Coast are these tiny little stands of remaining old growth forest that were never clear
Hmm.
cut. And so
Hmm.
when I got here, I was like, oh, really? Grasslands were like the forests of this area. I know there were actually still oak savanna forest, et cetera, and woodlands, but still, I was like, really, the way I think that we've gotten away with not valuing it is we're like, it's just grass. It's just grass, man. Like, how could that
Right,
matter?
right, right.
But it's so alive. There's so much happening, and it's such a huge habitat.
Yes. And I
Um,
think that's a great way to think of it too, because I think people more widely understand the value of something like an old growth forest. You
And
know,
that's
it's a
why I've started to
terminology.
use, yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I've
yeah.
started to use the phrase, and that's why like I adjusted my thinking. I was like, if I think about it like old growth forest, then that is helpful. If I think about it as just grass, then I think
Mhm.
of yards,
Right, right.
and then I'm not as interested. But
Um,
it's
Also,
so
like
different.
people talk about the prairie as being almost like an inverted forest because those root systems are so deep and complex.
Oh
It's
yeah,
almost
yeah,
like the forest is underground. It's sort of
yes.
like that iceberg mentality where like most of the
Oh,
mass of the organism or what is underneath the soil.
that's interesting. That's a really
Hmm.
interesting idea. I never thought about it with the iceberg thing. Funny. For some reason, I'm also thinking of like the stones at Flint in the Flint Hills is like there's just the tiny little bit of it at the top, maybe, and then it like
Oh yeah, you see like little rocks peeking out, but it's
yeah,
this massive
yeah,
bedrock underneath. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. All those
totally.
little iceberg tops protected the perennial roots. That's really interesting. Um, all right, that actually was all of my questions. I have no idea where we're at in terms of time. Oh wow, oh wow. Oh, so almost an hour.
Yeah.
Almost an hour, about 50 minutes. Um, did you have any, do you have anything that you feel like I should have asked or anything that you would like to talk about? Or like let's talk about this for sure. Is um if people want to find out more about your residency,
Hmm.
Yeah. What do they do?
Oh, great. So you should go to tallgrassartistresidency.org.
Got it.
You can also find it on Facebook and Instagram, Tallgrass Artist Residency.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to apply. Is there an application fee? Is it rolling year round, or are there like small deadline windows?
Yeah, we do. We have an application period in the fall. So actually it's open right now for 2026. But the application period is typically like mid-September through the end of October for residencies that happen the following year.
Oh, so there's still time this year.
There's a few days, yes.
There's a few days. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, right. No, mid-October. Oh, right. No, I was thinking it's September for a second there. I'm just tired.
Yes.
Okay, so no, we're out of time for this year.
Yeah.
So you'll have plenty of applicants. Well, actually, how many people apply each year, would you say?
For the past several years, we've had around 200 applicants.
200?
Yeah.
How far away has the furthest applicant applied from? Like, are we
Um,
talking other countries or?
well, we have had interest from other countries, but we can't host international applicants at this moment.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that will change someday. But
Okay.
we the furthest. I mean, we've had people from New York and California and Montana. I mean, I would say really like all
Wow.
corners of the U.S. for sure.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Um, okay, anything else you can think of?
Well, just on the topic we were just discussing, it just had a thought that occurred to me too about comparing like grasslands to old growth forests, because I
Yeah.
think that's genius what you're the angle that you're getting at. But I think like another reason maybe that um, people don't appreciate grassland as much is because it goes away seasonally. Like in order to maintain a healthy prairie, you need grazers, you need fire. And those things make what you see on the top of the landscape disappear and go away. And
Yeah,
so, and if you don't know the perennial nature of those plants, you think, oh, they're dead, they're gone. But
right.
they're not. They're not. It's just like getting a haircut. Like that's what keeps it healthy and regrow. Yeah.
I never thought about that. It is like getting a haircut.
But it's
Yeah.
another reason why it's so dynamic. Like, I think with old growth forests, the best thing we can do, well, I'm not a forest expert, so I don't know, but there's more of this like leave it alone, hands off idea, right? Like the forest,
Hmm.
like leave it be. Prairie, on the other hand, has is a managed landscape and has been for thousands of years. So, like before the cattle were here, of course, the bison were grazing,
Yeah.
and then fire was present in the landscape both through, natural lightning strikes, and indigenous people used fire to both hunt and cultivate other types of plants and food. So it's
Yeah.
with if we did not continue to participate in the stewardship of prairie, it would go away.
Hmm.
Where there's like a disappointing amount of prairie that is being lost consistently, like on a daily basis, because of woody encroachment from things like the western cedar. Um,
Hmm.
so that's what happens when we take our hands off of prairie. It goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting because it makes me think also about how then like a contrarian might say, well, then we're just holding on to the past and we should just let
Mhm.
things go a natural way. But fire
Mhm.
is natural from lightning
Mhm.
strikes, but you can bet we knock down that fire within 10 minutes. And
Right,
so we're not allowing nature to take its course.
right.
You know?
Right, yeah, we've
Yeah,
removed some key elements that have been
yeah,
present in the past that help maintain healthy prairie.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I just went to my first prairie prescribed burn this last week,
oh,
and that
nice.
was super fascinating. It was about 15 acres, so it was
Uh-huh.
not tiny. It was really big and dramatic, at least from my perspective. And I posted a photo online, and someone chimed in to say, "Ah, you've killed all the pollinators. Great." And I was just like, "Well, no. We just cut the hair, and also the pollinators had all died down for the season. They'd gone to bed,
Yeah,
and they're all going to be back." Like, and that's
yeah,
the crazy thing about Prairie is it just keeps coming back year after year. And so all those um, the grasses and the forbs will all be happily showing up in the spring. And I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
just so it's
Yep.
so interesting that Prairie just can bounce back so fast like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a lot of research out there around like when are the best times to burn for what ends and everything like that. And there,
Yeah.
I mean, fire is also um, destructive and regenerative, and that's true of almost any like life process. So it is.
Yeah, yeah,
I think it can be challenging to be to try and be a good human steward because we're always weighing these pluses and minuses, these
yeah,
benefits and losses.
yeah,
Um, you know,
yeah,
so
definitely. All right, Kelly. Um, well, all right. I really appreciate I think we're right at about an hour. I don't want to take up more of your time. Of course, but we'll chat just for a second at the end after I hit stop record. But thank you so much for taking the time. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed the interview. So,
yeah, it was nice to talk with you,
okay.
Charlie. Thank you.